statement, and we'll go right to questions.
Sorry about the delay. Obviously, with good reason, waiting on one more to go public. So that was well worth it. 12 guys from the state of Virginia, 8 on offense, 10 on defense, an athlete in Luke Stewie. We'll see how things shake out. We feel good about him on either side of the ball. And then 11 early enrollees, which is also significant. But couldn't be more excited about this class. The late flip with an in-state guy with Jamari from the 7-5 helps us at an area of need, talented guy in the secondary and as a returner, a strong student, looking forward to coaching Jamari. But the entire class, really excited about getting all them to the finish line. A bunch of good prospects, great families. Several of these guys, had some strong suitors down the stretch. And they stuck with us. Great job by the staff, the relationships, identifying the right people, the right talent that weathered some things over the course of the season and have stuck with us. A bunch of winners in the class. We got, excuse me, we've got 6 players that are still alive for state titles. In Jamari, Jaden, A.J. Brand, Zeke, Knowledge, Keldon Ryan. So, awesome there. We've got 18 of the 19 are from the footprint. I think you're always going to go outside the footprint if you need to for a quarterback. And certainly excited to get Keldon in the fold and didn't mind traveling to the Dallas area for him. We got 7 players out of the top 25 in the state of Virginia, which I think is the most in a decade or so. So we're proud of that. Again, invested in the state. And then lastly, not that stars mean everything, but 6 4- or 5-star signees. I believe that's the most, at least ties the most in quite some time. So, proud of the class, proud of the efforts of the staff, thankful, and proud of the families and the young men that joined us. So I'll take some questions.
With the Deloach flip, when did you know? When were you confident about that? How did that whole thing play out?
Yeah, we worked hard on it last night. Had a good conversation. We've continued to recruit Jamari the entire time, and he's allowed us to do that. Conversations weekly, text messages throughout. Important phone call last night with him, his dad, his stepmother. That was significant, and received a phone call at 6:45 this morning that he was going to make the flip. One that we were hopeful for and continued to work on ever since the commitment to Cincinnati.
You had a couple of guys that are two-sport guys in Peterkin, Matthews. What is that process like, coordinating recruiting efforts, conversations with those guys? How much of a challenge, or was it a benefit in this whole process?
I think it was a benefit. I believe both those young men would have come here either way. I think more so with Micah, the baseball piece is important. He's going to onboard with baseball in early January, and that's where his emphasis will be for the spring. Coach Sheff and I have a long-standing relationship back to Louisiana Lafayette, and we've had multiple conversations. We've put together a calendar that makes sense for Micah. He's a really determined young man. He's been able to excel at both throughout his scholastic years, so we want to give him every opportunity to do that. Snook has spent time with Coach Young and those guys, visited with him at one of his visits here on campus. He spent time over there. I think that's a little bit more football first, basketball second, and we'll see where that goes.
Highland Springs, DeMatha, and now Green Run. What are the advantages for you guys of having so many pipeline schools like that?
I think it's good when it's the right schools, when they're winning programs that are doing it the right way, which all 3 of those schools to me are. We have great relationships with those coaches. Each one of them has a different tie to us, to Virginia Tech, to our staff. But, those relationships, when you have a young man on your team that can tell that prospect that he played with, that he knows, and that prospect trusts him, when they can give him the true on inside the locker room and inside the program, that's impactful. When those guys can get on the phone and spend time with them when they visit us and say, listen, this is what you're going to get here from coach, from the staff, from the teammates. This is what it looks like. So I'm proud that we can continue to do that at those high schools.
Brent, for the second time in 3 years, you signed 2 quarterbacks in a class. What would you like about Keldon and AJ, and what does that do in terms of your depth in the quarterback room?
Yeah, I tell you, we're really, we're pushing that room in the right direction. And Coach Bowen, Coach Chris did a great job with both of these guys. I wasn't sure we could bring them both home to the finish line. It's an awesome job by the staff and a great commitment by those families. Both these guys had their recruitment really notch up down the stretch. I think AJ and, from where he's from, that was challenging. And there was a lot of conversations in the last 48 hours. But to be honest, they really didn't waver. There was some affirmation and some good, genuine dialogue, and they stayed the course. And very thankful for it, and I think they are too.
When you look at the overall landscape of college football, it seems like building an offensive line from homegrown kids seems like the better way to go than spending a ton of money in the portal. What do you like about bringing Carter and Nathaniel and continuing to build that room with the 3 guys you signed last year and the ones that you signed the year before?
Yeah, I think what's important is, particularly, it's for all the guys, but on the offensive line, the more you can know about those guys, not just character, work ethic, but having them in camp, working with them, that's really important to see a guy's bend. Those guys develop a little later than other positions. Sometimes it's harder to see it in a high school O-lineman than it is a DB, a quarterback, a wideout, a running back, a D-end. So when you have those guys in camp, it's very valuable, and that's the case with both those guys. Carter's been in camp multiple times with us, and the story I said up there, I'm not sure if you guys are around, about him jumping off a pontoon boat at 6'8", 320, landing on all fours on a tube. I mean, planting it, and then they couldn't get him off. They couldn't throw him off at 6'8", 330. I mean, they were whipping him around. Really athletic guy for his size, good balance. He's just an impressive athlete for the size that he is.
You had 4 from the Hampton Roads area this year on this, and then APR came from that area too. How does the relationship in that part of the state improve since you got here?
It has. I think, sometimes it's about the quality, obviously, of the guys and the number of guys, but it's also about the relationships that we've built that have allowed us to be in multiple conversations with good players from that area. Not all those battles we win, but when we got here, those conversations weren't happening. Those guys weren't visiting Virginia Tech. And right now, I don't know that there's a top player in the state that wasn't on our campus at least once, and honestly, probably multiple times.
Jeffrey Overton has a lot of accolades coming out of D.C. What do you see from him and his ceiling as a running back?
I think he's one of the more underrated players in this region. Finally, he gets a 4th star, gets some recognition that he more than deserves. We identified him very early. He's got incredible intangibles, but also, to me, he was one of the more complete backs in this class. Early on, there was a lot of suitors. We stayed the course, stayed with him. His family stayed with us. I think he's a guy that could help us as a freshman.
Any plans on hiring his dad as a hype man after that?
I'm going to tell you what, when you get him on staff somewhere, you know, a great family. And, you know, there's been some tough conversations with a lot of these guys. And, you know, we certainly had some with Jeff and his dad and his mom. And, you know, there were some folks down the stretch that went really hard. You know, they'd voice their concern, and we'd have a conversation, and we'd get through it, and, you know, the commitment would remain firm.
It seems like with some of these guys, you offer them, they're like, I've always dreamed of being Virginia Tech commit, and then others might be sort of a tough nut to crack. Were there some that were difficult initially to get over that hump and finally get a breakthrough with them?
Yeah, we see both. We see guys that understand the tradition and the legacy that's here, whether it's a parent, a brother, an uncle, somebody that knows of the success and grew up, you know, loving Virginia Tech football and following it. Guys from their area that have gone on to Tech and had success and been good players. But then there's you know, there's guys that don't know that it's about, you know, introducing them to the tradition, introducing them to what Coach Beamer accomplished here, to all the years of great defense, to all the great running backs, to all the great quarterback play, you know, educating them. Because that's real and it's tangible. And in the end, I think you hear it out of every family that talked. It's the relationships, and it's the trust. It's the approach. It's, you know, it's not a circus act to get their son to understand what we're offering them, what can be here for them. There's not a song and dance involved. You know, we're trying to put our best foot forward for them to know what we're about and what this experience would look like for them.
Any specific guy you're really proud of to get into that, that were tougher to get over that hump?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Keldon comes to mind just because he's so far removed. You know, did he really understand? I mean, he was excited when he learned about all the great quarterback play here. You know, again, when you talk about all these guys from our footprint, you know, they got a better chance of having someone in their family know about, you know, our program and what we've accomplished over the years. So.
There will be two more in the room, Tim, and then Chris, and then we'll go to Zoom.
Brent, with Kelvin Ryan being the guy outside the footprint, what goes into that evaluation process to decide, all right, this is a guy we not only we want to offer, but because he's outside the footprint, this is a guy we want to use extra resources on to pursue outside the 6 hours?
I think mostly it's the position itself. You know, at that spot, for us, we're going to go national to find the right guys. And for quarterback recruits, they're willing to go anywhere most times. Not everybody, you know, you're not going to sign 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in a class. You're going to sign 1 or 2. And so that quarterback carousel can be very interesting. And so we're thankful that, you know, that they jumped in early with us and, you know, stayed the course, remained committed. He had people come at him. Coach Tebow and I flew out there and watched him play in the national high school game of the week. They didn't win the game, but he did an outstanding job. You know, one of those games where there's 30-some D1 commits playing that night. There's college coaches all over, everywhere. And one of the best players on the field, you know, was committed to being a Hokie.
And then with Sheldon Robinson, I know you guys have had some safeties come in as freshmen and immediately play with Mose Phillips, with Quentin Reddish. Do you think Robinson is another guy who can come in to that room, at least provide some immediate depth?
Yeah, I do. A couple of reasons. He's got the size and the physicality as a freshman. He's very mature. You know, I think he comes from a really solid background. He's a pretty squared away guy. There's a lot that goes into playing as a freshman. You got to be academically ready, socially ready, emotionally ready. You got to learn the playbook. You got to be physical enough. You got to, and so I think he's got a great opportunity to check all those boxes and provide some depth for us as a freshman.
And then you get him and Christian Evans out of the Northern Virginia area. How do you like how you're improving recruiting maybe up and Overton as well? How do you like where recruiting is trending in that part of the state?
Yeah, I really, there's so many good programs, and it's saturated, right? There's so many schools. So you can really do a lot of work in short order, and get to a lot of folks. And you slide right into DC, into Baltimore. I mean, it can be a really good area for us.
Chris?
Is it a good thing for signing day to be moved up before the transfer portal opens?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there was a lot on it. I'm in the middle of retention meetings with our players right now. 12 of them yesterday, 12 the day before, got a couple after this. Just discussing concerns or hopes or, roles and opportunities. And, but at the same time, to have a chance to close this class out before the portal opens, to have a little better idea of what your attrition is going to look like, what your signing class looked like. That's helpful in navigating the portal, for sure.
Any questions for Coach on Zoom?
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions for Coach Pry. Please also state your name and outlet before your question. And we'll start with David, please.
Brent, David Teal with the Daily Press. You mentioned that you were proud of your staff for keeping this group together. Seems like a majority of them have been recruited for 5+ months. How labor intensive has that process been, keeping them in the fold in this era of athlete compensation?
Yeah, it's challenging because there's a lot that can come at these kids, at these families. Whether it's an agent, whether it's, another program, whether it's, somebody that's a former teammate that's at an institution already. There's a lot of people that get in these prospects' ears. And now with revenue sharing on the horizon, and there's a lot that can come at these folks. And so it's more tedious. There's more attention necessary. And, you say 5 months. I say for over half this class, it's probably been, a year to 2 years. And for some of them, 3 years that we've recruited these families. And, again, when you're recruiting from the footprint, we're a lot more accessible to them. They can get here for a lot of the events we have. They can get here when it's not even a recruiting event. They can be here. They can come through. They can, attend a bunch of games. They can, get to know us even better, which has been really important in this process, especially for this class.
You mentioned revenue share. Do you have a firm grasp of how much of that $20.5 million that schools are allowed to share will be coming toward your program and how you will distribute it?
Yeah, well, it's obviously an ongoing process. It's a big task, but I feel really good about the commitment from our university in that arena.
Any final questions for Coach Pry on Zoom? Okay, Travis?
All right, last one, Nate.
Just to kind of turn gears on the off-season portion of this season that you came up short of expectations. Do you have a process for evaluating your coaching staff, anything like that? Do you anticipate any changes on that front?
Yeah, everything is evaluated, each and every off-season. It starts with me. I've got 3 pages of notes already, on things that I know I can do better. It's individual meetings with department heads. They need to evaluate their staff. And then it's me evaluating department heads and coaching staff and, all of it. We need to do better. And it's not just on the players, it's on the coaches and support and how we do things. Sometimes it's personnel, sometimes it's methods. So everything's evaluated. And so it's a good couple of weeks. We've already started that process. Had a lot of conversations, a lot of feedback. And certainly, as the head coach, having a lot of, just going through it. Where do we need to better? Why? What are the weaknesses? What did we do well? How can we improve? which we will. Yeah, I'm hopeful. We got great people in this building, and I think today's a testament to everything that, these families and these prospects feel about, the people in this building. We've got tremendous folks in this building, but there's certainly some things that we have to do better. And again, it starts with me, so. All right, thanks.